There is a rule in football that most people agree on in general, and almost no one agrees on in the specific. It says roughly that a foul committed in the build-up to a goal can result in that goal being disallowed. The word build-up is where the agreement ends, because the rule does not define how far back the build-up goes. In the first 24 days of this World Cup, VAR had intervened in dozens of situations. Most were accepted, if not always agreed with. Then came the round of 16, and a match that divided expert opinion more sharply than almost anything else in the tournament. One side had already upset the defending champions once in recent memory. The other had not lost a World Cup knockout match in over a decade. Inside 11 minutes of the second half, the match appeared to be over. The supposed underdog led by 2 goals. What happened next produced the most watched VAR decision of the entire tournament, and one of the most argued about. Goal was scored, then a VAR check was called, then the goal was disallowed, then Argentina came back from 2-0 to win 3-2.
And at the center of all of it was a question that nobody had cleanly answered before that afternoon. How far back is too far back?
Egypt led 1-0 when their midfielder played a pass that set a teammate free on a breakaway run toward goal. The finish was clean. The celebration began. Egypt were on the brink of one of the tournament's great upsets. The VAR monitor was checked. The original on-field referee was called to the pitchside screen. The reason for the review: a foul in the build-up. Not near the goal, not in the attacking half, at the other end of the pitch. An Egyptian defender had held an Argentine defender's shirt and stood on his foot while Argentina were on the attack. By the time that contact occurred, the ball had already been played elsewhere. Egypt had already begun their breakaway run. The referee watched the replays. He agreed with the VAR's judgment. The foul was real. The goal was disallowed. Egypt's players reacted with visible frustration. Their coaching staff argued. Their captain tried to mediate. 2 broadcasting analysts, watching the same replays at the same time, reached opposite conclusions. One said the foul was clear and the goal was correctly disallowed. The other said VAR had gone far beyond its intended reach. Egypt's frustration deepened when, later in the same match, they believed they were fouled in their own penalty area before Argentina went upfield and scored the winning goal. That incident was not reviewed by VAR. No check was called. No screen was consulted. Argentina scored. The final whistle blew at 3-2. Egypt filed an official complaint with FIFA the following day. And football had, once again, arrived at the same uncomfortable place. A technology meant to fix uncertainty had instead produced a different kind of it. To understand why this decision was so contested, it helps to look at what VAR was actually designed to do and what it was not. VAR was introduced to correct what FIFA called clear and obvious errors in 4 specific categories: goals, penalties, red cards, and mistaken identity. The phrase clear and obvious was chosen deliberately. It was meant to exclude judgment calls, close decisions, and anything that would simply substitute one disputed view for another. The concept of reviewing fouls in the build-up was included to prevent situations where a team benefited from a foul on their way to scoring. The example FIFA used when explaining the rule involved fouls close to the play that directly led to the goal being scored. It did not explicitly define the maximum distance between the foul and the resulting goal, and that gap in the definition is exactly where the Egypt argument lives. The foul identified in the Egypt match occurred, by most estimates, somewhere between 50 and 60 meters from where the goal was eventually scored. Argentina were on the attack. The ball was still in their half. The breakaway that led to the goal had not yet begun. The question VAR had to answer was, did the foul cause possession to change, and did that change in possession lead directly to the goal? The VAR team's answer was yes. A meaningful number of the analysts who reviewed the same footage reached a different conclusion. There is a parallel question that Egypt raised afterward. 3 goals scored by Argentina earlier in the tournament had fouls in their respective build-ups. None of those 3 goals were subjected to a VAR build-up foul review. Egypt's federation did not claim that those goals were identical to their situation. They asked a simpler question: what is the consistent principle being applied? That question does not have a clear written answer, because the current rules do not specify one, and that absence is not Egypt's invention. It is a genuine gap in the existing framework. VAR's technical systems are extremely precise. The rules that govern when those systems are triggered are considerably less so. That gap between technological precision and regulatory clarity is the actual subject of Egypt's complaint, not whether the referee made a mistake, but whether the framework gave him enough guidance to avoid one. FIFA's response to the Egyptian Federation's complaint has, as of this video's production, consisted of a statement that the decisions followed the applicable regulations. That statement does not address the specific question Egypt raised about consistency of application across different matches. The refereeing analysts who reviewed the Egypt decision publicly were divided, which is itself informative. Experts with direct knowledge of the rules did not agree on whether the rule was applied correctly. That kind of expert disagreement on a rule application, not on a judgment call but on whether the rule itself was triggered correctly, is precisely the situation VAR was meant to prevent. Argentina, for their part, came from 2-0 down with 11 minutes remaining to win 3-2 in what was, by almost any sporting measure, a remarkable match. That comeback deserves its own recognition. The controversy around the disallowed goal does not erase what Argentina did once the decision was made. Egypt, meanwhile, were eliminated from the competition. They had led by 2 goals 11 minutes before the final whistle. For Mohamed Salah, widely understood to be at his final World Cup, it ended with an argument at the referee's ear and a 3-2 scoreline he did not believe was the correct result. The Egyptian Football Association said it would not remain silent about what it described as the improper use of the VAR system and decisions that directly influenced the outcome. Whether FIFA's formal process produces any response beyond the initial statement remains to be seen. Based on precedent, the outcome is likely to be a reaffirmation that the on-field decisions were within the rules. So, where does this leave the question of build-up fouls and how far back VAR should go to find them?
In exactly the same place it was before the match, with no written rule specifying a distance, a time frame, or a clear causal chain test.
FIFA's laws of the game give referees and VAR officials significant discretion in these situations. That discretion has produced different outcomes in different matches in this same tournament. Whether those different outcomes reflect principled judgment or inconsistent application is a question that the available public information does not cleanly resolve. What can be said clearly is this: the technology exists to review these situations. The guidance for when to use it and how far back to look does not match the precision of the technology itself. Every sport that has introduced video review technology has eventually had to grapple with this problem. Football is not unusual in having it. It may be unusual in how slowly it has addressed it. The build-up foul category in particular has been flagged by refereeing analysts since VAR was introduced. The Egypt situation has made it visible in a way that individual complaints usually don't. Egypt's complaint is unlikely to change the result. No World Cup result has ever been overturned through a post-match federation complaint. What it might do is add another documented case to the argument for a clearer written standard for build-up foul reviews. That argument is not new. It was made after similar decisions in previous tournaments and in domestic league football across multiple countries. The pattern, if there is one, is that these arguments tend to peak at the tournament and fade before any specific rule change is written. Whether this particular case, coming in such a high-profile match at such a late stage of the tournament, produces a different outcome than previous cases is genuinely unknown. What is known is that the quarterfinals are about to begin. Argentina are in them, Egypt are not, and the argument about how far back is too far back is still unresolved.
For the teams still in the competition, the immediate lesson is practical. Be careful in every phase of play, because VAR's reach has no clearly defined boundary. For the officials, the lesson is one they have heard before. The technology's credibility depends on its consistency, and consistency depends on clear written guidance.
For football's governing bodies, the lesson is older still. The moment a technology is introduced as a solution, the questions it raises become your responsibility to answer. Egypt's case will be recorded. The formal process will produce a response. The rules will, in all likelihood, not change before the quarterfinals. The match itself will be remembered for Argentina's comeback, for Messi's equalizer, for the drama of 3 goals in 13 minutes. And it will also be remembered for a goal that was scored, celebrated, and then taken back, for a foul that happened at the other end of the pitch. Whether that decision was correct is still being argued. Whether the rules that govern it are clear enough to prevent the argument from happening again is a different question. The first question is about last Tuesday. The second question is about every match that follows. The game continues. The quarterfinals will tell their own story, and somewhere in the rulebook, a paragraph about build-up fouls waits for someone to make it more specific. That is what the offside is here to look at, not just what happened, but what it reveals about the system the game runs on. Argentina now advanced to the quarterfinals carrying a result that, for millions of viewers, will always carry an asterisk beside it. That asterisk does not make Argentina's comeback less athletic, or less dramatic, or less real. It simply means the context around it will follow it. This is not the first time in football's history that a VAR decision has ended a match with more questions than answers. It is, however, one of the clearest illustrations of what happens when the technology moves faster than the rules governing it. Two things can be true at once. The referee followed the rules as written, and the rules as written are not clear enough. Egypt's complaint rests on the second of those two truths. Whether that feeling is accurate or not is a question that depends, more than most, on what the rules say. And right now, on the question of build-up fouls, they do not say enough.